I don't know, Steve. I think he's, he's a good player whether he starts or comes off the bench. And so I don't really think it's anything in particular with when he's playing in the game. I just think for whatever reason he's in a nice groove now and he's a good player. So, I said before the game I like those guys coming off the bench because of the scoring pop that they give us. And sometimes you really need that. And he's given it to us now 4 straight games.
No, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to do whatever is best for the team. That's the most important thing for me. As long as we're winning games, that's all that matters.
All right, we're back for part 2. We're talking about the new 6-man, I guess, Avery Bradley. Temporary 6-man since Smart might not be playing on Sunday. Yeah, 6-10 man. So before we even talk about Avery's side of that, let's kind of continue that conversation we're having about Isaiah. So with Isaiah, you were referencing the quote that he said after the game about kind of after that poor shooting, being able to kind of sit back as a facilitator, kind of reopen up the scoring game for him. The thing is, and I was against Isaiah being swapped out for Marcus Smart in the starting lineup when we were talking about this a week or 2 ago. I didn't really consider the possibility of Avery coming off the bench just because I figured if Avery isn't shooting the ball well and he needs a creator I guess Marcus isn't the best creator, but I think he's more of a creator. But he needs a creator next to him, I feel, to get his scoring game going. But tonight he was shooting lights out, and it was perfect for this team because with Isaiah in the starting lineup, he gets more time to kind of pace himself out and develop a feel for the game, kind of like we were talking about earlier in part 1, and it proved to be really effective for both of those guys.
Yeah, no, I think it's like you said, kind of like a win-win. And you're right, because nobody really, when we were talking about who starts and who comes off the bench, it had really nothing to do with Avery Bradley providing the offense.
We just kind of assumed Avery was going to be starting.
Exactly. We thought it was going to be, like, who should it be, Smarter or Thomas? We thought that with Thomas and Bradley, there wouldn't be enough offense in the starting lineup. They might need Isaiah to balance that out. But then do you have that scoring boost coming off the bench? Kind of you do. I guess you do. Bradley, he wouldn't say after the game that, like, he's, like, 100% into the 6-man role. He said, of course, he wants to start like everybody else, but it is working for him. He's thriving in it right now, and injuries aside, I don't see why Brad Stevens would move away from that until he starts to see something else, maybe with Thomas or with Smart or with Bradley coming off the bench. Maybe if that's not working the way it was before, but it's working, and I think that they're going to stick with it. I think the good thing about Bradley is he can not only he's good off the ball with finding, like, he can create shots for himself without the ball. And what I mean by that is he knows how to cut. He's probably their best cutter on the team. He knows how to, work around picks. He knows how to get open. He's a good spot. I think he's been a pretty good spot up shooter for them.
He's improved a lot this
year.
Yeah,
he's improved. So, and if you look at his stats tonight, I mean, the 10 for 13 from the field, and they're not just layups, they're not just backdoor cuts. He would mix in like an 18-footer, one possession. Next possession, he's at the hoop. So he really is scoring from all over. Only took 1 3 tonight, hit it, but he usually takes more than that. But he's really scoring from all over right now.
The thing is, a silver lining, I guess, for Avery Bradley to be a 6-man is that he might want to get used to it because on a championship team, I feel like Avery's one of those kind of guys that kind of gets flexed in and out of the starting lineup depending on matchup. Point. Because obviously, if he improves, like he was great shooting the ball tonight. 10 for 13, he hit his 1 3 that he took. But he's generally been like a low 40s shooter. He's not like a high 40 shooter. He's not a 40% shooter from 3 usually.
He's not a guy that's going to go out and score 40.
But like he obviously doesn't have to be that guy. But if he wants to be, basically every team in the NBA wants a starting 2 guard that shoots 40% from 3. And he's been like more of like a 35% shooter from 3, which isn't bad, but it's not good either. So he can obviously continue to improve that. And Bradley has steadily improved in a couple areas, and he's added something new to his game pretty much every single year. He's refined a part of his game every single year.
Right.
But
and he does do other things that a lot of 2 guards don't do.
Exactly. So he's obviously a really valuable player. Considering he's only getting $8 million a year, he's a very valuable player.
I think so. But a lot of people were against that signing. I'm not.
I mean, at the time I thought it was fine. Now with the cap jump, obviously it's like it's like the mid-level, which is a great deal for him. Point being is that this might be a role that fits Avery Bradley for the second half of his career. As he's approaching the age where he's kind of getting close to his prime, this might be the role that fits him better.
Yeah, I agree. And it's especially, I mean, the Celtics, what you see now, Danny Ainge isn't looking to keep this roster for, the next few years. If they did bring in, like you said, like maybe a more talented 2 or 3 or somebody like that, he would be a guy that I think they would want to keep on this team to provide that off the bench or a spot start or situational where if they need defense down the stretch, if they need, the spacing or whatever it might be, he's the guy who can kind of do it all. So I really do think that it's good for him to have this chance to come off the bench and to perform the way he is, because he's showing that he can, provide different roles for this team.
Okay, so let's talk about a guy that was coming off the bench last year, and now he's starting. Jay Crowder has been phenomenal over the past week. I mean, what he did tonight was incredible. He went 8 for 12 from the field, 3 for 6 from downtown. He had 5 rebounds. He had 3 steals, as he always does. He had 19 points. But then you look at, so he had a plus 19 differential. Joe Johnson, the guy he's covering, minus 19 differential. I mean, the impact was pretty apparent. Joe
10
Johnson,
less minutes too.
Exactly. Joe Johnson barely even stayed on the court in this game.
No, yeah, he was invisible.
No.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean,
Jay smothered him.
Jay made him invisible, absolutely. And the thing about Crowder is he's a defense. He's been known, at least we know him as like a guy who's going to give it you 110% on defense, and whatever you get on offense is kind of like a bonus. But recently, I think he's been looked upon to carry more of a load offensively. He's not hesitant to take those 3-pointers. Sometimes they don't fall the way you might want them to, but he's not hesitant at all. He had 11 points tonight in the first quarter. Really got this team off on a good start. Really kind of like punched the Nets in the mouth, I think, in a way. Definitely punched Joe Johnson in the mouth. I mean, Joe Johnson is like, he's their scorer. You know what I mean? Like Brooke Lopez is going to do Brooke Lopez things, and Thad Young's going to do Thad Young things. But Joe Johnson's, he's made his hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars by scoring and nothing but scoring, and Jay Crowder washed him away.
And what's great about what Jay's doing is, I mean, his defense has gone from he's always been a good defender. He's, I think, entering the kind of all defensive team level of performance this year.
Absolutely.
But his offense is getting. I don't think he's an all-star this year, but he's one of those guys that's getting to the level of like Andre Iguodala was, like a almost all or like
better
a fringe
offensively.
all-star because of their effort on both ends.
Yeah.
And we're seeing now with Jay that not only is his shooting ability getting a little, or he's starting to hit his shots a little bit more, and he can drive to the hoop better, but his ability to drive and kick has really improved. And they've actually been running sets for him where he's supposed to drive and then turn around and kick out a pass to an open shooter on the three-point line. And that's kind of a new development to his game. And of course, his effort in transition is off the charts. He's one of the best guys in the league at that.
Yep.
He's also apparently one of the best outlet passers in the league, whether he's throwing full-court touchdowns or whatever it is. But Jay's game is really rounding into form. He's my favorite player to watch on the team, and he's really starting to establish his reputation around the league now.
Agreed. I think when you see the last couple of games, Mavericks and now the Nets, the opposing teams have said, this team's a playoff team. This is a team that's better than a lot of people think. I think Jay Crowder is kind of like the epitome of that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how good the Celtics can be, and a lot of people might not know how good Jay Crowder can be. Because let's not forget, when he came over to the Celtics, he didn't all of a sudden have a big role in the Celtics, and he clearly didn't have a big role in the Mavericks. So a lot of these guys are really seeing a lot of Jay Crowder for the first time, and I think they're like, whoa, like what's this guy? He's working harder than me right now. I need to pick it up. He's all over me on defense. He's running past me in transition, like you talked about. His efforts at 110, and he's really taken on that leadership role too. I've really been impressed. He doesn't seem like a guy that's gonna just sit there and watch. If he sees something he doesn't like, he's going to be the first guy, I think, in that locker room to say something.
No, he's clearly turned into the vocal leader of this team. There's just no question about it. Whether it's on the court, after the games, before the games, I mean, he speaks his mind. If you look at him on Twitter, he's never used a lowercase letter in his entire
He
Twitter
doesn't
career.
even know what a lowercase letter looks like.
Everything is intense with Jay Crowder. But I think Jay is pretty much filling exactly what this team needs. And it's pretty good for this team that they're kind of their locker room leader isn't necessarily the best player. It takes pressure off of Isaiah Thomas and and whoever.
He seems more of a quiet guy.
Isaiah is kind of a laid back guy. He's a cocky guy. I mean, he's a scorer.
I mean, he can turn it on.
Scorers are going to be cocky.
He just seems like a little. I don't want to say that he's a quiet guy because I don't really know him personally, but he just seems like in the locker room he's a little quieter than some of these other guys are. But don't get me wrong, Isaiah Thomas, he can get in your face and he can get fired up like anyone else on that team.
So we're gonna finish it up today. The Celtics are 7-5 after this one. Probably a good chance they'll be 8-5 after Sunday's game.
You would think so.
Yeah, they're going to be.
So.
They're when you talked about people around the league underrating the Celtics, it seems just listening to all the national podcasts, listen to all the kind of national coverage. The Celtics, after that big kind of their trip or going against some of those big Western Conference teams, they've vaulted really high.
They're starting to get on everyone's radar.
I'm seeing power rankings. They're top 10 in most of the power rankings around the league. They're gonna. I mean, by the end of the month, they might be the third seed in the Eastern Conference.
And in the Eastern Conference, it's completely wide open.
Yeah.
You've got the Cavs and everybody else. I think.
And the Bucks are falling off the face of the earth. So.
Yeah, I'm not a Jason Kidd guy.
No.
Wasn't jumping on that bandwagon. I need to see way more out of him before I take that team seriously.
All right. Well, you saw enough of us tonight, so we'll segue into that in there.
Never.
For Jimmy, I'm Jared. Garden Report, CLNS Radio Celtics blog, powered by Grandstand. Peace out.